still do it out of just, I guess, just blind faith. But I'm going to try to be relatively brief because the food's coming out. So I'm doing a little presentation on electronic notarization. Finally, because everyone kind of wanted it because of the obnoxiousness of regular notarization. I call it a curse in disguise, as you will find out in the main slide. Oh, wait. Oh, you get it? Oh, there you go. Yeah. We skipped through that stuff. You don't need to see that. I won't go to what you say. So here's how everyone knows the familiar notary block. You've seen it everywhere for folks in real estate and any type of asset transfer. You've seen it. It's there. It's pretty typical. This one's actually from Utah, state of Utah, from a client of mine, and actually the revisions of the new act that went into effect on January 1 actually revised the block. There's several blocks now, depending on which one. You need to revise your block. That's the first thing, and it's actually in the statute, literally in the statute. Literally there. You just copy and paste it right out of there and change your blocks, which I'm going to do now because for my patent assignments, I have notarized typically. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Wrong button. So why bother? Well, because they basically make the document self-proving. Just like we all learned in the bar exam, a will or any type of codicil, 2 witnesses, notarized signature, but not bulletproof, but from what I recall, it's pretty solid. Like you can enter it right as evidence as it is, and there's no debate. I mean, you can try to challenge the notarization, is what I understand, but other than that, it's pretty much going to be rock solid. Self-proving document, very against fraud. I always like to point out that some schools now require permission slips to be notarized, which creates this whole industry for notarization now because you get that permission slip at 9 o'clock at night, which is perfect for online notarization because there's no regular notary available at 9 o'clock. So this is hopefully going to serve that purpose. So what's the rub? So it makes total sense. When I first got into the practice, I remember with my assignment documents, they should all be notarized. Why wouldn't they be notarized? And I would tell all my clients, you need to get this notarized. And they would whine, and they would beg, and they would ask me, why does it need to be notarized? And well, it's better for evidentiary purposes. The USP code really doesn't care. For real estate, it's a big deal. But the problem is most people don't have access, easy access. Everyone has access to a notary. It's easy access that's the issue. People are lazy. Mobility issues, this is the most important, is mobility issues. And that was kind of the impetus for this newest change. Limited availability of commercial notaries. Realistically, if you were to stop your client to say, where do you get a notary? Sometimes they'll give you a blank stare. They really don't know that banks typically have them and they can go use their own banks for a notarization. But most folks don't know where to go. I see it all the time. Of course, you got the easier option, plate signature. I always get this question, can I just sign it and send it back to you? And yes, technically you can, but I really prefer you do the notary, and then 10 seconds later I get the e-signed document back, without notarization. So, no digital, of course, no digital option in Florida until this year, 2020. So Florida House Bill 2019, Bill 409 was the act that or the bill that did this. And it just was implemented revisions into the existing statute governing notarization. It's effective January 1, 2020. You got 6 months to figure things out because they will not be permitted on electronic wills until July 1, 2020. The main provisions, basically, the first thing is it created a whole new chapter governing this. So there's basically the chapter, the section that was governing notarization. It divided the existing portion into chapter 1 and created a whole new second chapter. Revised the existing rules to accommodate the electronic notarization. For example, the section that had notary block got totally revised, and provisions recognizing and regulating. There's some special provisions for electronic wills. I mean, because there's the lobby for that particular industry was a little bit concerned, and as we'll get into in the subsequent slides. So, and the bill chose I guess you can call it the verbiage or vernacular of the bill. They call principal the person actually signing the document. And the term they use is remote online notary, or RON, the person or company that's going to be notarizing your document. Most likely going to be a company, or the way I think they call it the remote online notary and their notarization provider. You're going to need a provider now. You're going to do electronic notarization for the reasons we're about to get into. So what can a remote online notary do? They basically do everything except for solemnizing a marriage. And so they basically are just as effective, technically. Where would these entities be? So if you got remote online notary, can you be everywhere? Basically, the notary needs to be in Florida. The principal witnesses can be anywhere, just virtually connected. The commissioner of deeds, I don't know what this is. Maybe someone knows what this position is, but that guy or that lady can do a notarization from outside the state of Florida. So that's kind of like a super notary. And there is a fee. You may charge no more than $25. And I can tell you, all the commercial vendors are immediately charging $25. That is not tied to inflation, so you know that's going to get changed. So right now it's $25, and that's what everyone's going to charge. At least that seems to be the way from the few vendors who are already operating are charging. Well, that seems easy. So the typical old-fashioned notarization process is simple. You show up, make sure you don't violate any rules, you don't know the person, you're not related to the person, or you're not related to the person, all those typical things. So I call it the new hotness for remote online notary is not so easy. It's, there's actually a multi-stage. If you're taking this very simple, show up, give me your ID, you know what you're signing, boom, sign it, move on. And that document is self-contained. With that notary block on there, pretty much it's golden. It's gonna, but not so much now. So the remote online notarization is a three-stage process. So there's the authentication stage and the actual notarization stage, and then the all-important post-notarization storage, which is the reason why you're going to need a vendor to help you with this. Oh, new hotness. See, there you go. This video actually works. So authentication. So this is straight from the statute. But basically, what you got to do is, if you don't know the person personally, just like you do in regular notarization, you go to the next stage. In regular notarization, you present the ID, boom, looks good, move on. If you're doing that second stage in online notarization, it's actually multi-step now. So first you got to present the credentials. And you got to do credential analysis of each government issued identification credential, and then identity proofing. So the credential analysis, as I understand it, means you need to run that through a database to make sure that's a legit number. The proofing is an obnoxious step. So identity proofing has not yet been, I guess it's on another slide, but basically the statute sets the minimum threshold for identity proofing, and it's basically, if anyone's done that credit application deal online where they ask you, what street did you live on in 2010, who's your sister's, what's your sister's middle name, stuff like that only you would know, but they can pull from public databases. That's what identity proofing is. So all that's going to be done in the authentication stage for the principal and the witnesses. So everyone's got to go through that rigmarole, which can be a bit obnoxious. Oh, the more important thing is subpart 9. So all that authentication stuff, if your remote online person just doesn't do it, he messes something up on one person. Any failure to comply with online notarization seems to open up a avenue to attack the validity of the document being notarized. So it seems to be there. That's going to probably scare off a lot of folks if authentication's not done right. The next one, the proofing. And so in the statute, it basically sets that threshold. Until the Department of State adopts rules setting standards that are equally or more protective, this is the minimum, which is basically, they tell you literally, you got to ask at least 5 questions from publicly available databases about personal information. You got to get 80% of them right. You get 2-minute time constraints. It even tells you how many questions you can repeat if they fail. So it's basically similar to credit applications online, and the witnesses get to go through this one too. So it's going to slow up the process. Notarization step. So now you're done with authentication. Now the notarization. So at this point, the video stream would start, and it's recorded, and it's unedited, and it must be uninterrupted. So if you have a client that doesn't present well, you're not going to want this. I think the argument that at least what I saw online was the argument from a lot of attorneys that was, I don't want this recorded because my client in and of himself could be a bit difficult, and maybe he may come across as lacking capacity, which is a bad thing. So it creates this recording, this very unedited recording that will be available and must be made available and attached to the notarized document. It needs to capture the appearance of everyone there, confirmation of the identity, principal, and this is after the authentication. So after the authentication, you got to identify yourself. A general description of the documents being signed, at the commencement of the recording, recitation by the online notary, public information sufficient to identify the notarial act, declaration, and all actions and spoken words have to be recorded. So it's basically, you're going to have to go for like at least a few minutes of like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm Jack Avid, I understand I'm signing an assignment for a patent document, and everything, basically everything is recorded. The actual signing is recorded, all that stuff is going to be recorded. And this post-notarization storage. So you got to keep basically everything. Assigned to that notarial act for 10 years. I mean, that's the kind of like the summary of it. It needs to be kept for 10 years, securely kept for 10 years.
Yeah, well, and maybe you're going to have to answer this, but when they say keep, I mean, do I have to keep paper copies, or can I just store everything electronically?
Oh, electronically. They call it an electronic journal.
Okay.
And you have to keep that recording. Now, that video recording could be 10, 15 minutes long, multiple streams, so that can grow your data storage geometrically. Generally not going to be an issue because data storage gets cheaper over the years, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. But you have a crash. I mean, if you're going to do this, you're going to hire a vendor to do all that stuff for you. I don't think individual notaries are going to want to do this. It's going to be the big notary company like onlinenotary.com. They're the ones that are going to deal with all this stuff. But if they have a compromise or anything that happens to their storage, it could cause an issue. For example, I think, where is it? I'll go like this more. It has all these requirements for the storage. And not only the requirements for the storage, we have to take reasonable steps to ensure integrity, security, and authenticity of online notarizations, maintain a backup record of the electronic journal required by the subsection, and protect the journal, the backup record, and any other records received by the online notary public from unauthorized access or use. This seems to be commercially reasonable stuff, like keep it secure, keep it, so that's not too bad, but still, it's another obligation, a continuing obligation. Now you're putting on a notary. And if the promote online notary fails, basically the same thing as before. If you fail at authentication, it seems that it can be introduced as evidence to establish violations of this chapter, as evidence of possible fraud, forgery, impersonation, basically all the things you can do to attack a notarized document. So I think what's going to end up happening, is conclusion. Yes, this is definitely, technically more convenient than a regular notary. But it takes what was a simple, happy, self-proving document, and that goes bye-bye. You got to keep up with storage demands. There's going to be trouble, and given the owner's requirements, this is likely to be used in limited circumstances. I in fact don't think if you use these things, it's going to probably be chumming the waters for people to challenge the document and the subsequent litigation, because there's so many things they have to go through, and I just don't think people are going to adhere to it. And the online vendors I see right now are multi-state online vendors, and I cannot imagine they're keeping up with all the requirements of Florida statute or from these different states, and whether they're going to be able to keep up with that. So there's actually a disclaimer they have to read. Oh, this brings me to vulnerable principles. So the trusts and elder law lobby was really concerned about this because they basically were worried that people are going to get disinherited. Their parent or grandparent of like age is going to get basically bamboozled to online notarization. So if you're a vulnerable principal, there's all these extra things that now get brought in. Your witnesses must be with you. They can be remote to the notary, but they gotta be with you. And, you know, you have to read these disclaimers to them before you can actually notarize it. And basically, you're telling them, hey, if you don't adhere to all these standards, whatever I'm notarizing is gonna be invalid. And so if they're a vulnerable person, which is the person that most likely has the mobility issue, and to establish that, by the way, if you think they're vulnerable, you have to ask a bunch of questions. The notary has to ask a bunch of questions, and some of them are kind of personal in nature. You know, like whether you have you're married, you have a caretaker, can you basically live day to day without aid? And if you say yes to any of these questions, yeah, not the married one, but if you have if you need aid in your day-to-day living, you're a vulnerable person, and all the new things apply. And so, but what's going to end up happening is I think people who are vulnerable people are going to, you know, because they disclaim it, are going to just simply lie. They, no, I don't have that. That nurse isn't coming in and helping me out every day. I'm not vulnerable because, you know, my son and daughter are in Utah, so I want them to witness this, and so I can get this signed. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. These people are going to try to accommodate, make it easier. So I mean, effectively, oh, sorry.
So it seems like the people that this would be good for, like people with mobility, are also the people who are going to be vulnerable. So what is this really, who's this benefiting other than these online notary providers?
I think it's going to benefit all the superfluous notarizations being required. My wife used to be a notary, and she's not anymore because once it became known, you know, locally in our neighborhood that, oh, so-and-so's a notary, at 10 o'clock, I got that permission slip that needs to be notarized, go knock on the door and get a notarization.
That's
you know?
why I'm not a notary.
Yeah, and you know, that's what ends up happening. And yeah, I kind of empathize with a parent. You get the permission slip from the school or a referral, and you're like, you know, daggone, I gotta get this thing notarized. It's 9 o'clock, and you can't go to school, so you're kind of left with these lame situations, time crunches, where if you pay $25 and go online and get this thing notarized, I'm totally gonna do that. You know,
Right.
and so I think it's gonna create an industry. I'm sure people have already been doing it because you could do online notarizations in other jurisdictions, and so for a referral or a permission slip.
So these reasons, these documents maybe really shouldn't have to be notarized, but you're not saying that people should be doing this for wills,
Oh,
for
no.
trusts, and I don't know.
I don't think anyone's going to do it for at least 10 years. I think it's good because all these challenges, they're going to need to develop that law to say, oh, it's only if there's for example, what if it's just a minor failing in the authentication, nothing big, but person didn't go through everything. Does that mean you're going to challenge it defective? Is it going to be a defective document, or perhaps?
Would anyone who does wills in here ever use that?
The section on electronic signing of wills, not just electronic notarization, but electronic signing of wills, is going to be effective in July.
Are you going to use that?
Oh, heavens, it's awful.
I mean, will you use it?
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're still struggling with that, but I don't think, we don't have any plans to use it, because I think our primary concern is, we don't want to have the storage requirements. Because once you act as a remote online notary, then you got to store that. I mean, we store the documents, but the storage requirements here, I mean, they're pretty, as I understand, pretty draconian. You got to have a lot of, you know, in terms of computer firepower and that data storage. That I don't think we're prepared to do.
But also, don't you and Mike's office, Adam's office, don't you like to kind of look at the person signing so you don't feel like they're, I don't know?
I could see it being very hard to make a judgment as to someone being unduly influenced or someone, have capacity when you're not face to face with them, because they can say all they want. No, there's no one else in the room with them. That video feed that video feed shows it spinning around, showing the whole room.
And not to mention, you know, I think they're going to, so it's 10 years is the statutory requirement. I think it's going to be good practice to permanently store all that.
Separate question. Really early on, you said there's a new notary block. Is that for all notaries?
Yes.
Yes.
Where is that?
And it's in the statute.
Oh, but I mean, where am I going to find that?
Oh,
Just circulate that, sorry.
Oh, I can,
Security.
it's in there. Hold on.
I'll get you this.
Okay.
Oh, 117.05 subpart 12.
We can still use the traditional.
You are required to use that block. You don't have to do it online, but the block has to have the block for you, this physical presence or online.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the thing that you may have seen go around, there was this whole make sure you update your notary blocks, because it needs to at least indicate whether the person's actually presently physically or presently online. And, I mean, I think if you use the old block, like, I'm sure some people have used the old block in the last 4 weeks and they're now changing it out. I don't think it's gonna make your block the
For
same.
recording, if it is a document that is recorded, it does not have a new block.
Oh, they're
It
gonna
says
down.
that recording can be considered invalid.
Ooh.
I have another question. Let's just say, like, I witness somebody's signature, and then I give it to my secretary, and I say, I witness a signature, is she allowed to notarize it?
No.
No.
Really? I wasn't aware of that.
No, yeah, no.
Yeah, let me ask you, so big law firms, like, I'm thinking like, you know, national law firms or Holland and Knight or something like that stuff, do you foresee that they're gonna get into this, that they're gonna?
Nah, no way.
Nope. Really?
No, go just use a vendor, because you're gonna have all that liability. Too much liability for no margin. Like $25,
Oh.
you're gonna wanna.
Oh, I didn't mean get into the business, I mean like, internally, like Holland and Knight can say, okay, yeah, for documents that we prepare, like our wills or our deeds,
Mhm.
you know, we're gonna do that for our clients, we're gonna do it remote online notary, and then we're gonna store the documents.
Oh, they'll just use someone else, they'll use another vendor, because it's just, it is onerous, like, and again, you don't wanna be the person that drops the ball, because if, you know, you have a catastrophic failure in your systems for some reason, or you get data corruption, you know, I still think it's not worth the grief, and there's vendors out there, let them take the liability. I mean, you need absolutely, it's there. I think what most people are gonna do is like, if it's there, you need it, like, oh goodness, it would be nice to have online notary, well, you can use it, but there's all these like problems. And so I looked into to see what vendors were available. I didn't really get enough time to kind of, you know, go through and figure out whether they're any good, because you kind of have to hire them and use them. But they're all charging $25. I know that seems to be the floor, or the, you know, the price that everyone's going to charge. So
What are you using to actually Saturday and Adobe Seminole Pro and doing something? So yesterday I notarized something that was a federal form. You can say a federal form doesn't have federal form for the feds. Currently, they can do it all. They still accept the whole form. It's pre-printed federal form. It'd be interesting if you have some, I don't know what it would be, but I don't know, some state Department of Revenue or whatever form, and it's their form they're using, and it doesn't have this, they haven't updated their form.
no, I think it's a good point. I think it's going to take some time, and you know, I just, it really is a nice idea. It really is a nice idea, but I don't think it's worth like all the grief like it's going to introduce. I don't think if it was my will, I wouldn't want it to be online. I'd want it to be in person, you know, traditional.
Make it simple for me. I have a client in Orlando. I need him to sign a release. He's out in the sticks. What is he, does he have to have Skype?
It'll be whatever audio-visual software they want to use. It makes the most sense that it's going to be some proprietary platform because it's going to all be part of their storage. You could use Skype, but you need to record it, and you need to have like a way of storing that file. You know, I think what most people are going to do is have some type of proprietary software interface for the notarization, and it'll open up kind of like WebEx or Zoom or Google Meetings or something of that sort. It's going to be a proprietary software suite that's customized, you know, with basically a meeting. What you have is like a Zoom meeting, except that one person needs to watch you sign something electronically. You know,
But still, he'd have to have a computer, he'd have to have a camera on the
Yep.
computer. He'd hold up his ID, show you his ID
Yes.
and his face at the same time.
Yes.
He said, I'm getting ready to sign this and answer questions. and do this."
No.
Tim, the other thing is if the witnesses aren't in the room with him, then you gotta have two-way communication with them
Yeah.
and with the notary.
It's going to be like a web app. I mean, what I'm thinking of technically, when you look at the requirements, it has the same technical requirements of a multi-person video conference meeting. Because everyone needs to have a stream, it needs to be constantly recorded, and there's going to have to be some whiteboard where like the document's going to appear, and then the signer, the principal, is going to say, I'm signing it electronically right now, and after doing all the authentication and the introduction stuff. That's
I'm just
part of
not
it.
saying now, this is going to be easier than getting your car and going to your.
Oh, no. It is not.
Realistically, it's only gonna be the after hours.
Yeah.
And there may well end up being, maybe not the stick, but literally we go someplace, there'll be a coin per hour, they cash checks and do all the other
Oh,
stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the little service that they'll charge, they'll charge $25 for that, but they may charge more to rent a little space.
Oh,
Whatever, they'll-
you know what's gonna end up doing?
If that's doable.
And another thing it's going to end up doing is set that, I don't believe there's a fee minimum, or minimum or a ceiling for regular notaries, but it's effectively setting one now, because a regular notary is not gonna be able to charge more than an online notary, you know, because you gotta show up. You know, and more people, although we know it's better to do the in-person notary, you know, a regular layperson's just gonna be, no, why would I pay to go somewhere when I can just pay $25 and not leave my house? And that's what, I think it's gonna be for the superfluous stuff that I really need to be notarized, but it has to be notarized, and I wanna get it done, and I don't wanna go to the bank at 8 in the morning, you know, which is probably the easiest place to get something notarized if you don't have a notary. I mean, we're in an industry where there's usually a notary in our offices, but most people don't
There
have
should be a mobile notary.
Who could?
For them to come to our house.
They're out.
Shoot, that was my business.
Yes, it's a lady.
But for $25 a shot, you can't make any money.
I'm not allowed to do a law.
I mean, if you're a mobile notary, how many you doing an hour? I mean,
Yeah.
you pay more on gas.
So,
Can they charge any ancillary services?
yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
Yes, you can, notary is something very more important.
Very important.
Yes, no one can get into
So,
I got just one observation, maybe more for Rob. You know, there are millions or hundreds of millions of dollars changing hands in the world. And to think that you as a lawyer for 10, or
Sorry.
you know, just big numbers changing hands, and the thought that you're gonna say after 10 years or 20 years, oh, she seemed to know what she was doing to me. And two, I've been that witness before to a person's house where I wasn't sure this person knew what he was doing.
Right.
I'm the law clerk, and the judge and the lawyer saying, we need to go back and write up how he knew what he was doing.
Right.
And I'm pointing, you know, I'm.
Right.
It just seems weird in the age we're in, that kind of money changes hands, and we don't have it more formal like this.
I'll tell you what's even worse though, most of the money, you can have a lot of money that changes hands like through retirement account, like
Yeah.
beneficiary designation. Most of those documents don't have to be notarized.
Yeah, that's
You can do a lot of that online. I mean, the opportunities for fraud there or coercion, huge.
so any additional questions?
Did this change what is it, the civil notary, the apostille, did it change that as well?
The seal? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. I think it probably will say like whether you're online notary public or not.
You think this is ever going to become mandatory, like e-filing?
Oh, no.
No.
Not in our lifetime.
Does it cost extra money to do the online notary?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question.
You gotta take a class.
You gotta take a class,
Yeah,
yeah.
you gotta be, and I don't know if they've even had the class, I don't know if it's out yet, but you have to have a special designation to hold yourself out as a remote online notary.
I think some of the online notary service providers might sign off.
Yeah, I saw that when I was doing my little research for vendors. The first thing that pops up on Google isn't actually online notary. It's companies offering the course so you can become an online notary or a remote online notary. So it's definitely a business. It's definitely a business, and I think it's going to be very popular. I think.
I think Betty needs to.
Not
be
amongst
a notary,
attorneys.
and we'll just use her.